I am recording already, so I mean, we can just kind of go whenever. I don't really have much of an agenda. There's not a lot that I really want to talk. I mean, like there's plenty to talk about, but like as far as uh just like my perspective on it or whatever, like I don't care, especially like with this whole Russia thing and Ukraine and all that, and everybody's all pray for Ukraine. Like, okay, yeah, sure. But you should also probably be praying for Russia and Syria and Libya and Yemen and wherever, like all the anybody who's all worked up about the fact that Russia and Ukraine are at war. You do realize we've been at war for the last over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Is that important?
Yeah. I mean, I have an opinion on it. It definitely doesn't match probably what most people's are, but the hysteria is the part that, to me, it's just like this convenient thing. It's like one thing to the next to be worked
COVID
up
to
about.
this. Yeah. And it's the same characters. It's the same group of people.
Exactly. And the amount of talking points that take place, the lack of being educated on the subject, but having a ton of opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's also, it's super amazing, dude. And like you said, like this is really a conflict between like governments and leadership, not people. Like when we're out bombing the rest of the world, like I don't have much of a say in any of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and most countries are the same way. They're everyday citizens.
Yeah, it's just people there.
And that's why no matter what happens, like everyone's, we need to sanction them. But it's like you realize that doesn't affect who you think it would. It affects the people you don't want it to affect.
Right.
So it's like, I understand your position. And it's like, dude, I don't think anybody thinks war is a good thing except psychopaths.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I think we can all agree on that one. Agreeing on who's right or wrong. And this is one of those things where it's like none of us know how to be objective enough to say who's right or wrong in something like this, and it I don't know, man. And
I know there are people in the Ukraine who wanted to be part of Russia, so like
the Donbass, man, like if the whole eastern side of Ukraine doesn't even remotely affiliate as Ukrainian,
right?
It's super complicated. This is a very, very complicated subject or top, and it's been going on for a long time. To act like all the night Russia just got an itching up their butt.
Just
to go
Putin wants to be a
psychopath.
Like,
all the things. And what's true telling is that both sides of the media are just talking the same thing. It's like, you guys are parroting the same nonsense, and which makes it sad because both sides make it believable. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so that's another thing that shouldn't be surprising at this point in the game, but the amount of propaganda that's been coming out from both sides that is just blatantly false and like wrong and misleading and stuff, and that people will take it and run. And it's crazy. It's like, have you not learned anything, in the last couple years like that? Like maybe you should sit on that story for a second before you just start barking it around like it's 100% the truth, because there's a good chance that it's not, or that there's something else going on there or whatever.
Yeah. The amount of people sharing stuff that is, I mean, there was like the Ghost of Kiev thing. I don't know if you see it. That's literally from
Snake Island.
Game.
Right.
You literally are taking stuff from video games and passing on as something true. Or stories that happened in a different country like 5 years ago or something.
Or just pictures from years ago, and they'll be circle or like a video or whatever. And you're like, yeah, that's from 2014 though, So, but they don't care. They'll use it as the photo header of a article or whatever. Yeah, it's pretty wild. And that's where I'm just like, this is journalism for you. That's what it's turned into, is this. Just kind of, make it up as you go. And even if you're wrong, you're not going to be held accountable. So it doesn't matter. You can print a retraction on page 6 months later, and that's good enough. But nobody reads that. They just remember the headline of the original story. And
they, the irrational outcry is also just, like EA Sports, like we're going to get rid of Russia teams on our games. Like really? Like,
well, that should do it. That should do it. That'll solve it.
Yeah, what does that accomplish?
Right. I don't think that soccer player has any pull
I'm sure
with
Russia's
Putin or
gonna
whatever.
feel that one too.
Right.
Putin's like, you know what, guys? Up until now,
This has gone too far.
Yep,
Yeah.
I was convinced I was right. Now,
Yeah.
we might want to back off.
Things have gotten out of hand. We need to fix this. Yeah, no, that's not the case. Or like, and it's like the little things, like the people dumping out Russian vodka or whatever, where it's like, yeah, but we're still, buying barrels of oil from them and whatever, like all of that. Like, it's just, again, like it's a term that we use a lot and we've heard it, but it's the virtue signaling kind of thing, or just kind of an attention deal, or look at me, I'm helping, pouring out their Russian vodka. No, you're not. It's literally zero effect.
So I've been listening to James Lindsay a lot. I don't know if you know who James Lindsay is. He's really getting into like critical race theory and stuff like that.
Fun.
He PhD in like mathematicians. And it's funny. So he originally, you might have seen him on, I think he was on Ben Shapiro or something like this a couple of years ago. Him and one of his colleagues they wrote a bunch of fake
article, or
I'm trying to gender equality study papers. They were insane, dude. Like the first paper,
like beyond parody. Like we're like, this is so crazy, but people are eating it up like it's true.
Dude, they actually got multiple papers accepted,
published. Yeah,
and published. Like, so they got peer reviewed and then published. And one of them was like the rape culture at a dog park. I mean, and when you listen to him talk about, they literally took Mein Kampf and rewrote it in the eyes of a feminist,
right,
and got it accepted. I mean, it was,
and then
absolutely insane.
What about after the reveal? People were probably still like, yeah, okay, so that was fake, but still they made some very good points. And
you would think so, but they mostly just got villainized for,
well, those guys. But I mean, the people who were reading it initially and like being like, yes, like this dog rape at dog parks is a big problem.
Oh, dude, they even got like so some of the papers, they submitted them and then they got them like given back for like, here, you need to change this and change that, and got some
they're getting like
feedback,
right? Here's what could make your like fake study a little better.
They would even admit, it's like, but then there was certain stuff they would even do, like in the dog park one, I don't remember what they did. It was like they forced the dog to do something and they're like, oh, that's like white misogynist behavior, so we need to not do that, or so. And it was just their insanity.
It's all fabricated crap. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then people will be like, but this really does happen though. You're like, yeah, but you can't come up with a real example of it. All you can do is like show me this fake kind of fabricated version. But anyway, have you seen that show? What Would You Do?
Yes,
I hate that show.
It's been forever. Yeah, because it's all these like fake scenarios that never happen. Like I'm sorry, like I've been all over the country. I've lived in multiple places, and I've never once been in a store where someone was like openly racist to a black person.
Right. It's like I would immediately start looking around like, where are the cameras? Like this isn't. Shit. Where's that John Kionis guy or whatever his name is? When's he gonna come out?
And I mean, I hate to like twist this into like a victim mentality type thing, because it's not, but I've been in stores and been followed around. So it's like this idea that you don't know how I feel type thing is not true, because I don't know if people really stereotype as much as they want.
Right. I'd say I think that they do, but is it to the extent or whatever that people will bring?
Dude, if a black dude dressed to the T walks into Beverly Hills stores, they're not gonna.
No, they're calling him sir, and like
I mean,
but if you come in looking like Mr. T, that might be a little different.
Maybe, like you said, there might be one or two people that do treat you poorly.
Sure,
because
there's jerks everywhere.
But this goes back to the whole thing with James Lindsay that I was gonna get to, is a lot of the way that the left articulates their ideologies is through projecting,
right?
Because they themselves are that way, so they're just projecting it upon you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you're racist, but I'm really the racist, so I'm gonna project it onto you. And it's this constant circular argument with most of this stuff. I mean, literally right now in Ukraine, most of these battalions fighting are actually Nazis. They're neo-Nazis.
Right. There are.
And you have the left here, these these anti-fascist Nazi hunters that are now like, go Ukraine, because Putin's a monster. And I don't know anything. I do know he was in the KGB. I mean, they can literally repeat like one talking point, even though they don't know what he did.
Right.
I don't know anything about the guy. Like, they don't take into mind the dude's been the leader of Russia for 20 years and has never once invaded anybody. They bring up Crimea, but it's like they don't know anything about Crimea or how he went through the court system to get Crimea to vote their way into being Russian.
Right.
Because he was actually a lawyer in the KGB. That's what Putin was.
He's an interesting person, that's for sure. And I'm not like a Putin defender or anything like that. Like that's but he's not the boogie. It's similar to what we saw them do to Trump. Right. And like, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I mean, you can certainly have arguments against it and have problems, but like that in itself isn't enough to make somebody like the boogeyman of the world, or like, and it's the same thing that they did to Trump, where it's like, he's not that. You've built a caricature of a person and that's who you're arguing against. It's not the real, real person.
So Putin for 5 years has been arguing about this whole Ukraine thing. He has made it blatantly obvious what he intends to do. If they like every time, like he comes out, the Kremlin releases reports like daily, and he himself has come out and given talks. Like he is open about like, if you guys do this as according to all the accords that we signed, back in, was it 94 when Ukraine got split up or whatever? Like, as long as you guys live up to your side, we'll live up to ours. But the second you start messing around, the way that I understand this, he is taking this as a defensive thing. Like he looks at the defensive sovereignty of Russia in great threat right now because of what's happening in Ukraine. And the only way out of it in his mind, as whether he's right or not, is offensive action against Ukraine right now. This isn't the idea that he's sitting there wanting to regain the whole USSR is absolutely insane.
Right. No. But that's what, and it's again, like one of those things where left unchecked, Putin is going to take over the world, or whatever. And it's like, shut up. That's just not even a realistic, kind of fear to have. He's
never even remotely shown any signs of being psychotic like that. Like, I mean, dude, like,
in our history, we've seen way more psychotic leaders.
So
and there is one, and like, right, I was just gonna say, North Korea is a way different.
Starts going into South Korea, but like, let's go, guys.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
And like the whole world needs to go, hey, this is a problem, not America and maybe UK and like France. Like the second it starts becoming regionalized problems, I mean, the fact that China's sitting there going, like, we don't care, whatever. South America doesn't give a crap, so it's like, and all it is in the West is like, we need to arm Ukraine, and it's like, just like we armed ISIS and Al Qaeda.
That never works out for us.
And dude, they even did, like, I don't know if you heard the reports that like the president was handing out weapons, and it was just bad people started fighting each other because they haven't had weapons, dude. And it's
isn't he letting people out of jail and stuff too to fight? Like, and that's the crazy thing too, is because like Zelensky, there's things about him that I like too, but he reminds me more of like a Justin Trudeau type, like got voted in by just being the pretty boy kind of. I think a lot of women voted for him. A lot of women voted for Trudeau. And he had that the kind of celebrity kind of thing. He's the cool guy.
If you go back to 2014 with the coup or the coup there and stuff, and how, dude, Ukraine's a mess. And the fact that like they're treating Ukraine like it's this just complete democratic independent country that's now just being
and we're responsible for a lot of that too, that it's the problems that are there.
Oh, like, dude, I actually just shared a video on Facebook like 2 days ago. I don't remember the guy's name. He's a historian. Super good talk. It's like an hour long. And it was titled like how the West is responsible for Ukraine and Russia. And he goes through the whole thing, dude. And it's like, that is fascinating.
Yeah.
And every bit of it's 100% true. It's not, the guy has no bias at all. And like, I've heard multiple really good sources going through like the whole Donbass. I would love to say I could even pronounce the two. There's like two regions in eastern Ukraine that are basically part of this whole conflict thing, you know. And it's even more complicated than that, because it's partly about the citizens there. But like I said, to me, this is more in the eyes of Putin, a defensive thing for the whole sovereignty of Russia as a sovereign nation, because like I said, he's a nationalist and he's fighting against globalism right now. And that's exactly what, like, Trump and him are the same in that fashion. I think that's where they saw eye to eye, and most people didn't understand that. Do I think Trump and Putin were buddies? Not by any fashion. I think they understood each other and they respected the fact that they each were like, hey, I love my country. I think
don't mess around. You're like, that's going to be a problem.
Sovereign borders are important for this reason. Most of the citizens there have no way to protect themselves. But these governments have the militaries to do it. So like Eastern Ukraine has no way to protect themselves from the Western Ukrainian government over what's been going on. And I mean, everyone's like, oh, this is genocide. What about what's been going on there? You guys are ignoring this, dude. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if the Russian government does, let's say they are protecting them, maybe they are. You know what I'm saying? Like, through the eyes of propaganda.
We don't know. And we know that we can't trust our media to tell us what the truth is, or our government.
And do I trust the Russian media? No. Like I don't either. But like I said, they've been so open for a long time about what they thought and their intentions if things happen. And he's followed that to the T, to the where it's like, why would I not trust and believe him? But I'm listening to a media that literally like didn't have a word to say about what happened in Canada. And Trudeau's a great guy. I mean, literally listening to Trudeau talk about this is absolutely fascinating. I mean, how dare this dictator take away these individuals' rights?
What?
Like, wait, are you talking about yourself? You know, like I just,
it's bizarre. It's a bizarre world. It's clown world. It's all of that kind of happening, you know? Yeah. And I mean, it's like, there is, I mean, it's going to come off wrong because I was about to say it's entertaining, but it kind of is on some levels. Like, to just watch, like, if you just like remove yourself from the the equation and sit back and look at what's going on here, you're kind of like, this whole thing's ridiculous. No, like, I mean, just everything that's happening right now and all these people who are in charge and all this stuff that's going on around the world is pretty ridiculous. The fact that we've even let it get this far is, you know, crazy.
No, absolutely. But it's because like we join into the hysteria.
Right.
Too many people join. They don't.
Well, that's what we saw through COVID. That's what we see. We're seeing now. And it's with the knee jerk reaction to the quick, you know, oh my God, Russia and Ukraine are at war. And it's like, yeah, again, but like, I mean, war has been happening around you forever. And like just even with our involvement in wars, there was a kind of a shocking sort of chart or meme that I saw where it was there were a bunch of pie graphs next to every year. And it was like the year you were born and the chart showed how much of your life the US has been at war if you were born that year. Like if you see my phone won't even show up. No, so I got this dumb background. But you know, anybody born like, so I'm 1980. So that when what year were you born? Yeah, it's 50% of our life. The U.S. has been at war, but anybody born after 2001, it's 100%.
I think about that all the time with Brianna. I mean, she's 14, dude, and she has never. Now, granted, she doesn't really know that.
Right, it's because it's not on the news every day. It's not in the paper. It's not on the front of our.
In America,
right?
They're not blowing up our cities,
right?
You know, it's not real for us like it's real for them.
It's real for them. That's for damn sure.
That's what like gets me about people over here that just go so quick to talk about civil war. And it's like, you guys realize the consequences of war, right? Like I will be the first one to defend myself, but like, I'll be the last one to throw a punch first. You know what I'm saying? Because the impact of war is only cost. It only costs a lot.
Unless you're a weapons manufacturer or a giant corporation, in which case you make tons and tons of money.
Yeah, but I mean,
and that's a big part in the thing. But yeah, for people, for us, for everybody else,
on both sides, dude, everybody loses, man.
Yep.
Look at the Civil War. Yeah. So the country was unified at one point, but look, millions of people died.
Mm-hmm.
You had a country that was completely split in half for way long after that too. I mean, we're still feeling the effects in America of the Civil War. I don't think nearly to the extent that they maybe think it is, but like,
well, people will stoke it and like it comes in up, and yeah, I think it kind of ebbs and flows in a way like that.
Well, I think that you just get certain people on either side that want to
right.
identify
that won't, and they won't let go.
Yep. Yeah. And that's on like both.
Yeah.
Prisms, or if you whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I don't know, dude. It's been interesting watching this stuff, man. Like,
yeah.
It's funny because like before, man, I was always so opinionated on this stuff, and I've just been really just watching. I've been listening to a lot newer people too, like, and like the best part about social media is seeing like the trucker thing. There were so many people on the ground where you could get
firsthand experience,
real journalism
on the
even
ground,
though these weren't
real time.
You're
right.
Dumbasses.
Well, and those are the people that I respect a lot more than somebody who's like has a sort of either an axe to grind or something to kind of benefit from the deal. If like it's their job and they've gone to college for, I'm a journalist and I'm gonna do journalism. Okay, and that's fine. And there are good people out there that do that and that are from that school of things, but just the random everyday person that's there as the news is happening is a far better conveyor of that information than this outsider who's going to come in and observe and report or do whatever, because their personal politics are going to come into play, their biases or whatever. But if it's somebody who's just in the middle of it and they're just turning around, giving you a 360-degree view of what's happening right now, right here, that's valuable. And that's, one of the very few redeeming qualities of social media, but it's significant enough to where I'm like, I'll take all the bullshit for that,
well,
benefit.
Because you can ignore a lot of the bullcrap.
Yeah.
Like
you got to train yourself to do it though. Yeah.
But that's what I think, the not having an opinion on it, just sitting back and watching.
Well, and you can have an opinion. You don't always need to share it. And and you don't have to have an opinion on everything. That's another one. And you don't have to share every thought you have. I remember this came up in my Facebook memories a while ago, but I just posted out something. Do you people think stuff that you don't post? It's like, I swear to God, you're just posting every single thought that comes into your mind. You can hold on to some of them, right? You don't need to share everything.
Just put the phone down.
Just put it down.
Because you're going to have some thoughts that come through your mind. And
you know what I've been doing? And it's been like, I've noticed a difference and a positive benefit to it is I have my phone charger in my living room and I charge my phone at night when I sleep. So that means my phone's not with me at nighttime. And like, one, I think I sleep better. I fall asleep earlier, whatever, because I'm not sitting there scrolling endlessly. But it's a minor one since I spend most of the time unconscious. But it is time away from my phone, which I think is important, and people don't do it enough. And just something simple like that: put your phone charger in a different room, and then deal with it. And you'll be okay. Trust me. You'll wake up tomorrow morning and it'll be there. All that bullshit, all this stuff people are talking about, still going to be there. You can scroll through all the hot takes and all the mess. It'll be there when you wake up.
Well, it's weird too that, like, if let's say you didn't connect for like a month, you would miss a ton. But at the same time, it's like you wouldn't miss a thing because you would be right back into the mess of things.
Well,
like,
Dave Rubin, right?
Yep.
He does that. He does that every year.
August.
And then when he comes back, he has somebody.
But he's talked about it where it's like, it's always a shitstorm.
Right.
So it's like when you get back, it's like, yeah, you might miss a month worth of crap, but it's like there's still crap going on right now.
Yeah.
Today will be a brand new thing of crap.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
There's a whole new serving of crap.
Or at least that they want you to be focused on.
Right.
What I find fascinating, like Ruben, watching his journey for like the last 4 years has been super fascinating. I mean, coming out of the left to like, I mean, he's a straight up conservative at this point.
Well, yeah. But comparatively speaking, for sure.
I mean, I know he still likes to label himself a
Classical liberal,
classic liberal,
yeah.
which I think classic liberal and a general conservative are pretty much the same thing. They
Yeah.
are. You look at their values; they're not very different.
Right. I agree with
they're
that.
definitely not left.
Right. No. Yeah, and that's
because
a big
I
distinguisher.
think most people realize that you can't live in a sane planet that extreme on anything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you have to be,
And that's on both sides
you know?
of everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, absolutely. And him going down to like Florida now, and it's funny because it's just like, dude, if you turned off your phone and didn't pay attention to them telling you to be afraid every day and all the time, life's really pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, you like there's bad days and stuff, but like,
well, and we've talked about it before. It is what you make
it.
It's what you make it in a way, you're in control of your experience day to day, and you can either enjoy life or you can be depressed and worried all the time. Cause there's joy to be found, and there's, despair to be found too. If that's what you want to focus on, there's plenty to be bummed out about, but there's plenty to,
but there's not offense in everything.
No.
Like the people that just want to find that, I don't know what to say to you. I just don't know.
It's a weird, mindset or just way to want to live your life. And I do think at some level it is a choice, and you need to, either
you just need to move on.
Move on. Like, move on. And like, there's a lot of people that need to do that right now. And there's a lot of people that won't.
No. And I mean, I've been in that place pretty much in my life at a certain point. Like I remember thinking that way in a sense. So it's not impossible to move away from that. And take some sort of responsibility for your own life. Like, I can't, like the whole Ukraine Russia thing. My first, my first response to that was, I can't control any of that.
Yeah, out of my hands.
I can have an opinion, and I can pray for both sides, and I can all these things, but I absolutely cannot control it at all. So to be all hysterical, and I mean, I literally seen people.
I've seen people crying.
It's like,
I've seen people in tears.
I don't know what to do about this.
Yeah, and that's what it's like. That's the words that you hear too.
Move on with your life.
Here's the answer: nothing. There's nothing you can do. Nothing you should do. Yeah,
go be whoever you are today.
Enjoy your family, dude. Like, go enjoy your family. Like,
go enjoy the life that you literally have left.
Yeah, because guess what? It's short, and it's
and you will die one day. I think the whole COVID thing has cracked me up because we literally have like built this sense somehow that we can live forever or something. It's like an offense that we die, and I get it. I think that's
no one wants to die.
Part of the human condition. Like we know there's something wrong in dying. However, we will either way.
It's unavoidable.
Yep. So like spending so much effort and thought on not dying when you just will, to me, seems so wasteful.
Unproductive.
So anyway,
and that's where a lot of people are at. And I do feel like there are a lot that I don't know will ever recover from this. And it's again kind of a self-imposed kind of suffering that they're, just
absolutely.
It was weird watching the willingness of people to let it happen. And to,
it comes back to like a praxis and just being a part of something. I think sometimes.
Yeah, they feel like there's community there.
They have nothing, like they're not really contributing in their world, in their life. So,
this is their way.
This is, I think, what social justice warriors online do. I think that's their only way to actually do anything in life. And even though it's you and me both know it's not doing anything.
Well, it's similar to like just gangs in general. And like, that's where people who come from like a broken community, a broken home, they got nothing to live for, no support system behind them. And then they find one. Sure, they're selling drugs and they're banging against the other,
but they have group down the thing.
But now they have a community, an identity, and a thing that makes them part of something bigger than themselves. And that's, I think, a desperate want and need for people. And we know where it's like ultimately found and what, the only real way to find it, but they will supplement that with whatever. You worship something, whether it's your gang affiliation or your COVID narrative or your Lord and Savior, there's,
what's amazing though, like, because I always look back. I mean, I know Christianity is easy to compare everything to. Like, how does that how does that function in like the group, like the tribalism of Christianity and stuff. What's interesting about it though is it's never quite the same. Like,
Right.
yes, Christianity is tribal, but the funny part is we're completely different. In
Yeah.
fact, outside of what we unify on, we're probably enemies.
In a lot
You
of
know what I'm
sense, we
saying?
could be. Yeah, very easily.
Which in every other aspect, they never do that. It's like, no, we're unified, and then we have to find every other reason to be unified.
Yeah.
And it's like, but we don't
That's
do
where
that
your
inside of
leftists and social
Christianity.
justice warriors are for sure. And that's
Yeah.
why you have to be on this. If you cross the line on any one of these subjects, you're out. And we're coming
the whole
for you.
intersectionality thing, where in Christianity it's actually opposite. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, we know we don't agree on this one. However, here's the handful of things that we absolutely must agree upon in order for us to even say that either one of us are. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we both have to agree on Jesus.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's and the funny part is like there's not a lot of stuff.
No,
you know,
yeah.
and we
but the things that are there are pretty important, you know.
Yep. But we also don't determine that either. And I think that's probably what makes all that other stuff different, because in, you know, like critical race theory, like we completely determine.
Right. Somebody some jackhole came up with that whole deal, and you know, they keep adding to it as, you know, time goes on and whatever. Same thing. Yeah. With all of that sort of kind of leftist gobbledygook.
It's fascinating, dude. If you want to check out a new podcast, check out New Discourses by James Lindsay. Dude's incredibly intelligent, and like
where do you watch it, or is there a video too, or is it just audio?
I always watch it on YouTube, but I know it's a podcast, so I'm sure it's on.
Well, YouTube's my number one platform anyway.
You can even pull up just.
He was on the Lindsay. Dr. Phil show.
Yeah, you know what's funny is watch him talk about that, because he got clipped out basically, and at the end,
so did Michaela Peterson. What was the name of the podcast?
New Discourses.
Okay, there you go.
So he gets he talks a lot about the dialectic, which is from Hegel, which is basically, and this is where the left just lives in. It's like words don't really mean anything, even though they mean something, you know, like, so they constantly play this contradiction game with you with like the meaning of words.
Right.
And it's super, I mean, that's what the whole context of the New Discourses is. It's like, no, we're going to reestablish how we have discourse in a liberal society.
Yeah. And it's like, well, why?
Yeah.
We've come this far, like stuff,
you know, so it's
that doesn't work anymore. Rational and logic are both offensive. So
that's white privilege.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He reads through.
He's a younger dude, right?
Yeah. He probably about our age.
I saw a thumbnail and he looked pretty young.
Yeah. He's like our age, dude.
So yeah, good to listen to.
Super smart guy, man. Like, and dude, the thing I really love about, so like today I listened to The Theology of Marxism by him. Super fascinating. It was like 2 hours, dude, where he literally breaks down the religion of Marxism. And he also talks about other things. Like he talks about Christianity, and like he brings up the Trinity, because the Marxism has a sort of own Trinity, and he relates them to each other. And what I really appreciated is James Lindsay's an atheist, yet he represented the Trinity absolutely
accurately,
100 correct. He didn't.
That's rare.
Straw man. That's rare. Almost impossible.
Yeah.
They never understand it.
I respect that.
It's always three persons and three beings and three gods. I mean, they literally don't know how to just say.
Well, it's the same thing. If you ask like a leftist to describe like a conservative, it'll just be wildly wrong. But if you ask like a conservative person to describe like a liberal or whatever, they're pretty accurate, you know. But to hear that an atheist was able to kind of, you know, do a good job of summarizing that stuff is impressive.
I think it's because he's literally gone through. I mean, dude, he's read Marx, he's read Hegel, he's read all these critical race theorists, like Kimberly Crenshaw. I should remember these names. Marcuse. There's a whole bunch of them, and so he reads this stuff on the podcast, and then because a lot of it's academic stuff too. I mean, that stuff did literally start in like law schools as a theory. So he knows how to break it down from the academic level. Like here's what they're saying and all this academic-nese or whatever. But because of that, he represents it fully. He's not sitting there straw manning them at all. That's what I really appreciate him. That's actually why I appreciate mostly Michael Malice, like not everything, because I think some things he just doesn't understand. I don't think he's trying to straw man. I think he just hasn't really read up on it, so he'll just give what he knows. Other than that, I think he represents fully Tim
He's
Pool's
fair.
like this.
Yeah.
Dave Rubin, I think, is the same way. Jordan Peterson is like that. He doesn't straw man.
Pretty much all of the intellectual dark web, if you will.
For the most part, some of like
there's
Sam
always going to be
Harris,
exceptions to
Sam
the rule.
Harris is the exception because he is a horrible at straw man.
Yeah.
But like Weinstein, Eric Weinstein,
and then he's got a brother
I really
too.
appreciate like that guy. Like those guys are kind of interesting because they usually talk about stuff I'm not interested in. Like mathematics and AI and stuff like that. Like I don't even understand what they're
it's all over my head. Yeah, like it's.
But
they're still if they can take a subject that is like that to you though and make you able to listen to it for 2 hours, that's that's a talent right there.
They're incredibly intelligent and useful to our society. We need people like that.
Yeah,
we do.
And so we need to stop, kind of pushing them out or, deplatforming them or doing whatever.
Vilifying them, man. Like we're literally vilifying intelligence, excellence.
Right? Yeah.
People that show any sort of excellence at all. Like we need to knock them down to everyone else's level because that's privilege, and it's like, that is what has made this world amazing. Like that's what took us from the Stone Age to having air conditioning in our houses and cars that go 200 miles an hour and stuff like that. Like I don't want to live in a world where everything is so stagnant because we don't want anyone to be better than anybody else.
Right.
Have
you seen the movie The Giver?
Yes, it's been a long time. In fact, what's funny is Brianna had to read that book last year, so we talked about it quite a bit.
I think in the book, I think the book doesn't have a very happy ending, and I think the movie kind of does. The movie, he gets out, escapes with the baby or whatever. But that's an interesting movie because I do feel like that is the push. That's what they want. They want us to all live in, public housing kind of thing and like muted colors. You won't even be able to be flashy and like.
You ever seen Zeitgeist?
Yeah, like a documentary type of a thing, right?
The very ending of that, it's this socialistic utopia.
Yeah, dude. Glenn Beck wrote a book too called Agenda 21, and then there is like the Agenda 21. But and it's and that's what with the whole COVID thing reminded me. What I'm just like talking to people like all of those dystopian movies and books that you've read or seen. That's what's happening right now in real time in your life, and you're oblivious to it, and that's crazy.
V for Vendetta.
V for Vendetta,
took place in 2021. That was when the November 2021.
Remember the 5th of November,
and it was 2021. And it started with like a virus.
Yeah,
that was like what started their whole thing, and that's when the state came in and. And
weird
at its core. And I know everyone's like, oh, everything's Marxist, but that is Marxism.
Right.
That is the
like
whole point is that the state becomes the ultimate resemblance of the individual.
Yeah.
In nature, like there's a whole circular thing, how man is nature and he creates nature through himself. And the ultimate example of that is the state, the communist state, if you will, because they all know
the hell it is,
and it's like, this is insanity, dude.
Yeah, right.
Like,
but there are people that would be more happy there, more comfortable there, because it takes away a lot of responsibility. It takes away any like hard decision. It's just done for you. And like, I would rather that. I'd rather like, I don't have to worry about it or do anything.
This is I talk about this with guys at church a lot. It's the responsibility of freedom is the part that most people are afraid of.
Right.
You don't realize that when you're free, it's like, hey, I'm free. I'm literally free. Like
that means I can screw it all up and lose everything.
Yep. But that also means that like I'm responsible for my life not falling into chaos. Like nobody else is. I don't get to blame everybody else. you know,
Right.
and then
The writing's on the wall, and it's
you
your
have
deal.
to set boundaries around your own life, whatever that is, because not everybody's the same.
Mhm.
Some people, like, let's say like alcohol. I can drink a beer every now and then. It doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
Some people can't even
My
look
brother
at beer
cannot.
without being an alcoholic. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's like whatever your boundary is in a free world, because that's ultimately it's weird because it's the boundary, and we talked about this last time, between the responsible as an individual as it pertains to the community, because there's a fine balance. Like, I need to be responsible to myself, because that's how I balance out the community taking advantage of me. At the same time, I will take advantage of the community if I don't show a bit of responsibility to them. So there's
But
it's
none of
always a
it
little
can
give
be.
and take.
Yeah, sure, but none of it can be forced, because then that's when it's
Absolutely.
lost.
No,
You know?
and it's not free. It's
Right.
not
It's not
free.
free. Yeah.
You know, and I'm sorry, like that also goes back to things getting better and growth. Like, freedom generates what's the word I'm looking for? Imagination. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, go sit in a field and stare at the mountains or something, and you know, like, dealing with a problem, and like go out and be free, do something freeing, like whatever it is, like creative people that go do freeing
And
things.
those
It's
are the
usually when they're
radicals
like,
now.
boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's usually when they have their breakthroughs. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I was doing this and I got stuck, and then I went and did something that I really love that's freeing. Like, I jammed on my guitar, I rode my
Right.
motorcycle, or I went and rock climbed,
And
or I
that
did
gave a
something
whole new
creative, and
perspective. That's
boom,
what, like with
add-
songwriting
you
and stuff
know,
like that, people, or just even writing in general. It's like, if you're ever hitting that writer's block or having a blank, like, go for a walk, do whatever, and like change your perspective, change your thing, come back, and it could work wonders. One of the things I was just thinking when you were talking earlier, did you ever watch any of Black Mirror
I've seen
on
a couple
Netflix?
of episodes, like when it first.
It's an interesting.
They're so disturbing half the
And
time that it's
yeah,
really hard to
and some of
watch
them get
dude.
pretty tough. But the whole, like, the thing about that is, like, it's oftentimes they're the kind of in a sense, like, their freedom or their thing that comes around to eventually kind of get them in the end or whatever, like something that seems like a blessing or a great thing at the beginning ends up being worse. One of the best examples would be there was an episode that dealt with, like, it was like their sort of contact lenses that recorded like everything, like, so your whole life, so then you could sit there and like rewind it back and replay life moments or stuff like that. And how, like, at the beginning, like, that seems like, wow, cool, that's pretty cool. You mean I can completely recall that meeting from yesterday or that thing from me, but then you don't really notice the underlying sort of negatives that kind of would come with that or could come with that, and then you get wrapped up into it, sucked in, and it just, next thing you know, it's controlling your life, kind of a thing. And like, there's a lot of that, I think, with freedom, because with freedom you have the freedom for excellence, the freedom to excel, to be great, to do great things, but you also have the freedom to fail. And without both of those potentials or both of those possibilities, you have nothing. So you need to have the possibility of failure for success to even be an option.
Mm-hmm. You know what I was thinking about with you talking about that too, like this inability to, like, quote unquote erase something. Is it? And I've talked about this with people too, like karma. This is why, like, I think karma is a joke, because we treat karma like it's a good thing. Like, oh, that's a better thing than, this Christian judgment stuff. But it's like, no, Christianity is offering you forgiveness.
Right.
You do realize that, right? Like, that changes the whole thing. Like, hey, what you said and did, it's gone. It's forgotten. It's like, it didn't even happen. But karma is paying you back, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
Yeah. And a
No
lot of
matter
times
what.
tenfold kind of thing,
And
like, it
it's
comes back even worse.
It's indifferent. It doesn't even have a mind behind it. It just does it. And it's like, wow, that's incredibly unhelpful. So, like, no one can ever really be sorry.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can't.
Either you're going to get your comeuppance,
and then you have
or
to live in your nothing can ever be erased.
Right.
Just like the whole concept of so all those,
which would be a
underlying
terrifying
things,
possibility, a terrifying thought, that nothing can be erased. It's, yeah.
Well,
I'm glad that the forgiveness is a thing, and I'm glad that.
But that's what the problem with the left is. They don't want reconciliation.
Right.
That's what I've been arguing this whole time. It's like, you guys don't want it. We've been talking reconciliation forever. In fact, for most of my life, I thought we were already there. That's why all of a sudden most Americans are confused because we're like, wait, what? Like America's this overly racist country? Like, what are you
Like
talking about?
I remember like the
You know?
80s and the 90s when it was like, not like that at all.
And
now where there are there places or pockets or people that, again, there's exceptions to every rule. There will always be racist people. Or is this a racist country? Not even close. Not even close.
The praxis of we're going to end racism. What does that even mean? Like, that's literally like saying I'm going to end murder.
I'm going to end anger. I'm going to end frustration.
That's a better example. Yes, I'm going to end all anger.
Like,
no, you're not.
Yeah,
no,
luck.
you are not.
Right.
And it's not even helpful or healthy for you to even try.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe you should focus your energy on other things.
How about instead of trying to end anger, just create happiness or joy or whatever, or love, Don't
participate in it.
Yeah.
You don't, dude, like, I'm sorry. There are plenty of white people in America that don't participate in racist antics. That's
most
why
of them don't.
That's why it did pretty much go away for the most part. Like you said, is there racist dumbasses? Yes, there are dumb people all over the planet.
Right. There's people that shouldn't be allowed to drive that are, I mean, it's like there's always going to be somebody screwing something up somewhere.
Well, it's like the whole argument with like drugs being illegal or not. It wouldn't matter. We can make every drug illegal. There will still be drug addicts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't have to do with the law. The reason why, I mean, drugs are probably a little less arguable or a little hard to argue, but let's say like murder is easier. We know why we have a law against murder. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's pretty obvious. It's not going to stop murderers.
No, it hasn't. There's still murders, but there should definitely be a stiff penalty for murder.
There's deterrence.
There's like deterrence.
The average non-psychopath is going to go, I might not do this.
I shouldn't do that.
But if there just was no penalty for, I just go kill people if I got pissed off, trust me, there would be way more murder on this planet, dude.
That's possible.
Because people would just be like, oh, whatever, no consequence,
Yeah.
Anyway, but
and that's what I think drug use should certainly be discouraged, but I don't think people need to be locked into cages for it. And I think it would be more effective to discourage and to educate and to do whatever. That's going to go further than just penalizing people, because that creates, I think, then the cycle that, because now you've spent the last 10 years of your life in jail or whatever, and you get out and you don't have a great job, right? So you just go back to dealing and doing whatever. It creates a cycle. And I think if it was more like, community-based sort of support and change or whatever, like there's definitely a lot of different ways to approach that problem. And it is a problem,
Well, and it's even more messed up now because, I mean, growing up in like the 80s and even in the 90s, it was obvious drugs. You know what I'm saying? Like crack and cocaine.
And they were more like, to do them
was
drugs. Like a lot harder to hide or to like camouflage.
Like pharmaceuticals are more of an issue than street drugs are.
There's like a soccer mom that's basically a heroin addict, but she doesn't shoot it in her arm, and it comes from her doctor, and like you wouldn't even really notice unless she was in one of the points where she's nodding off or whatever. But it's
and then
crazy.
By the time someone like that does may or may not commit a crime, let's say like they do go commit a crime to go to jail, like that's super complicated because it's not your it's not your typical person that goes to jail for drugs, because most people that are like that grew up.
Would you see there were people in Ukraine who were like, I saw, and again with the propaganda and crap like that, you don't know what to believe or whatever. But so hypothetically, let's say that this is true, that there was a guy who was like sort of like taped up to a street post or whatever, a lamppost. Apparently because he was like looting or doing whatever. Like that's an act of desperation and a time and a place that, like, again, we don't understand. So it's not the same as like if somebody here in Blaine were to be looting Target, or like, so that's a completely different scenario.
The same people that probably like shared that and were like, yeah, get them.
Right. Well, not all of them were like, haha, look at that. Yeah, sucker, get it.
And they were cheering BLM.
They certainly were.
Because they were looting Targets and Walgreens and, mom and pop stores.
Just everything's backwards and weird. And there's zero, like everyone has the memory of a goldfish. It doesn't matter that they were just arguing against the exact same thing that they're supporting now. They don't know. They're oblivious.
Like I said, I think it's just something to be a part of and feel like
I think you're right.
Something in life, because you're literally doing nothing.
Yeah.
Or at least you feel like your life doesn't have meaning or purpose. So
beyond
that's your purpose or meaning, you know?
Yeah.
And like, unfortunately, I mean, you're even seeing this out of people that like love like Jordan Peterson. If they don't have a real foundation for their identity, what they're doing is using his 12 rules for life to create their own purpose, which is basically what he's talking about. But then
it's still
finding your own purpose inside yourself is ultimately nihilistic. I mean, we will find fault in ourselves so fast that it's like, wait, I don't really add up to what.
Well, that's one of the things, because I think it is about like a desperate kind of need for that something that's bigger than yourself, which ultimately is God. And like, there's a lot of people that can't put that label on it, or they're afraid to, or just, whatever, but it's there. There's that aching sort of need for something. And then they find something that sort of satiates that need for the time being, but it's not going to last. None of these things will last. Your SJW deal won't last. The person who's got Jordan Peterson as their, main thing. I mean, just when Jordan Peterson was like struggling through life or whatever, that would have been if you had built your whole thing around him and his, kind of the 12 steps or whatever and all that, and then you saw him sort of crashing and burning, what would that say about your kind of thing? So that
was exactly what I told Paige. I'm like, so when that book came out, so I mean,
or Ravi Zacharias, if he was your guy and then all of a sudden that story comes out, now what do you got? Where are you at now? That's
funny, like, because actually that's funny you even said him. Those two guys were who I was listening to as my whole kind of
the change sort of started, and they're so important. I respect both of those guys.
And what's funny is it left me at that point. I'm like, this is insufficient.
Yeah, because
it is completely because I'm already doing this stuff. Right. I'm already making my bed. I'm already taking responsibility. Like, I am making my own house better.
Yeah,
and I still don't feel like I can
still.
Go out and
I still need more.
World.
Yeah.
Well, it's not giving me the purpose or fulfillment that I wanted.
Right.
Yep. Because
but super like important people, and God bless both of them, and rest in peace, Ravi, and like Jordan Peterson rules. He's awesome. Love him.
I mean, Ravi led me to the thing that did give me the ultimate fulfillment and purpose. He himself didn't.
Right.
And I didn't identify with him as that.
But that there are people who were and who did.
Oh, absolutely.
And like with all that. But that's the great kind of thing, is how God uses broken people for great kind of things, and he has forever and will continue to do so in the way that only he can. So I mean, because none of the people on this planet are perfect, not a one, but that doesn't mean that they can't help you kind of find direction or find person or lead you back to God. I mean, we do it all the time. So it's I'm glad that God uses the dirty, the good, the bad, the ugly, all the above. It's all there, and it's all important. It all has a place. But that's I love both those guys too, and I love Michael Malice. I love even more kind of sort of edgy or whatever, like Gavin McInnes is and whatever, all that. I love them all. I love Steven Crowder. I love a lot of these people, but every single one of them have failed me on some level at some point.
Absolutely. But it's funny too, because like I failed myself on
way more. I've failed myself more than they have. That's for sure.
So I try to keep that perspective.
That's a sobering thing to know. Yeah. And that's what gives you the grace to be able to accept that, he ain't perfect. So what? He's still like, there's value there.
That's why like the whole cancel culture, where it's like, let's go back 20 years and see what mistake you made. It's like, wow, dude, like,
it's crazy. You just want to eliminate all of us, huh? Like that takes everyone out of the equation.
And I'm sitting there thinking about every dumb thing I've ever said that like I would love to go back and take back. Like I was definitely wrong. I've said some really stupid. I've said racist things.
Oh, me too. Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like I absolutely know at the bottom of my heart I didn't believe him, but that doesn't make a difference because I said them like I did. You know what I'm saying? And I was wrong. I was just wrong.
Yeah.
But
I was
that
wrong
doesn't
about a lot of
mean
things.
that doesn't mean like that. That is
But
who
you
I
grow
am
from it
now,
and
or
you
that
learn. And that's why
represents.
it's like crazy to just cancel somebody for that offense. And what's all these people that are the champion of your cause now? What happens when AOC is on the cutting block or whatever? Because it will come for all of them.
Well, that's
eventually.
what I was telling Paige. I specifically used her yesterday. I'm like, what happens when she's not dark enough?
Right.
You know, you're only brown, you're not black.
Yeah.
You know, like, because that's what happens every time, this intersectionality thing. Like, eventually there's going to be the ultimate victim, whatever that group is. And if you don't fit inside that group, you're an oppressor.
Yeah.
So who is that group? We're still,
well, we've always,
you
and
know?
like, and there is some sort of kind of, and it's not even something that I'm proud of, but like where like I do get a tiny bit of pleasure seeing them turn on their own, and it's kind of like, well,
I'm not even gonna say a tiny bit. I'm gonna say I get a lot of pleasure
Yeah.
out of it, because
And
I've
like,
been
I don't know.
saying this for about a year. Because I at first I was like getting worked up about it, and then once you started to see, if you played it out, you're like, this can't take long until they eat themselves alive.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because you will eventually cancel yourselves, because you guys can't live up to this. This is impossible.
Yep. And they are, and they
You
do,
know?
and it's
And when
pretty
you
funny when it
change-
happens.
when you change definitions and reality by the second, then
It's impossible to keep up
Yeah,
with. Yeah.
and no one would be able to live like that. So it's like,
Right. So it's
yeah, go
coming for
ahead,
all
good
of them.
luck.
It's just, it's a matter of
know?
time before your enemy number one.
No,
So-
absolutely. That's why it was funny when Trump was saying that they only hate me because I'm in the way of them coming for you. And it was like, everyone took that as like this weird conspiracy theory, and it was like, no, he like means that literally.
It's
like,
just true. Yeah, it's just literal.
speech-wise, like,
Yeah.
and you've seen that right at the election. I mean, they cancel him off Twitter, and then it's just like boom, 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 boom. They just start going after everybody. And it's like,
Yeah.
holy crap, dude. And I mean, like, we knew it, but it was like, yeah, because this is about praxis, which means action.
Right.
It's not about theory to them. This is about actionable things that they can do to make their,
not that they can do,
socialistic
that they have
utopia.
to do.
Yeah.
They have to do it.
Yeah, and this goes back to how they gaslight too, because they like the whole CRT in schools. Well, we don't teach CRT. You're right. You do it.
Right.
You just do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're not teaching it. You live it out. Like, you're not, like, when you have the whole transgender library hour, you're probably reading them like Dr. Seuss, but you're doing it.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm
agree.
saying?
Yeah.
So it's, and that can be gaslighting to a parent that's like, well, you're teaching it to them, and they're like, no, we're not. You know what I'm saying? Because like,
But you are.
then they don't
Yeah.
know how to art, or they wouldn't know the difference really. You know, and it's like, man, this is messed up. You know?
Yeah.
But
And it is messed up.
what do you do? You know,
Fight it in your
drink coffee, baby.
Drink coffee. We're, again, yeah, it's focus on the family, focus on your family and on your community. And that's why like the smaller is better.
Well, and you know what? My optimism is, our world has fought this not even that long ago. Like 100 years ago, socialism blew up. I mean, that was Marx thought within.
That's what's kind of
100
scary
years-
about it, because it could easily happen again. And it kind of,
Yep.
is in a lot of ways. But I think that there are many, many sort of roadblocks to that. And like, it's even more and more all the time. And it's harder for them, I think, to continue that charade when it's like, when, just how we were, until that's what it gets to, when they do start really clamping down on social media. And now these on the ground people can't share firsthand, kind of information, and it's all got to come through approved state, media or whatever. That would definitely help their cause. But until that happens, like, the cat's kind of out of the bag, and we're, people are talking, we're seeing, you can't keep fooling us. And a lot of people are, we're on to you. We're on to you in a bigger way than I think ever in history. But the other side is so loud and vocal, and they're also in the kind of the positions of power, be it media or government, or even just like Hollywood entertainment, whatever. They own those big platforms that are huge. And so they have a loud voice, and they carry, but I think the common people are still, we vastly outnumber them.
Absolutely. And their arguments just don't stand.
Right.
I mean, that's where they're at now. Like, that's why they don't want to have conversations.
Yeah, they can't do that. They can't. We're not going to debate it. You know, you're a bigot for even asking. You just want to date me. Remember that? That was like AOC not too long ago. It was like that's her answer to everything.
Date me.
It's like, oh, geez. Could you be more full of yourself? It's crazy. Did you watch any of the State of the Union?
I watched Timcast because they did like a drinking game, like a
fun.
They live streamed it. And
I know Crowder did the same thing. I didn't watch either of them,
but it was pretty funny, and it was mostly just a train wreck.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy mispronounced words left and right, and he literally. Their drinking game was funny because they had all these things that they each individually wrote that he would say.
Right.
And then the point was to get your list crossed off first. And one of them wrote down like he would forget what he was talking about. And sure,
that's a gimme. That's a gimme. That's the middle spot on a bingo card.
They even had like a 10-second window or something. Like he had to forget for like 10 seconds or something. And he did, like he sat there and it was like, it was like
time taking off.
Bro, you're reading a monitor and you forgot what you're talking about.
Incredible. Like, yeah.
Him calling Ukraine Iranian or Iran, and then he called it uranium like a minute later.
Just all over the place. That's why I couldn't watch it. I should have probably, but
and then he finishes the whole speech with "Go get
him." I saw that clip. That was one of my favorites. And I like the theory
that
the
Democrats were like, I don't know. What
does that mean? Right. There was people saying that probably wasn't even for him. It was like, probably maybe had like an earpiece in and like, so like, secure, like, okay, go get him. He's like, now go get him. Just says everything he hears. I don't know, man. It's like, and that I don't hate people that come up with theories like that. And like, there's a chance that that's exactly what happened. I don't know. Did you see the video where he was walking to, I don't know if it was like he just got off a helicopter or whatever, but he's walking like through the lawn. I think it was at the White House. Like, and the security, because you saw him wave, they're like, yeah, you just go down here. And he doesn't turn. He just keeps following him. Like, or then there was a recent video too of him walking across the lawn where it looked like every single step was like labored and like difficult. The man had a hard time walking across grass. He's the leader of the free world.
Dude, that guy's that's why it's like,
it's a disaster.
Everyone's like worried about Putin. I'm like, dude, Biden is the president of the US. That guy's a train wreck and a half, dude.
He's old and senile.
Even in not his incapacitated state, like he was not.
He's even actually maybe worse in that scenario. He's better off being a vegetable, than having all his faculties about him. But don't think that we've all forgotten too about the weird shit between him and Ukraine and his kid in Ukraine and like all that kind of crap and Hunter Biden. Where's Hunter Biden? What the hell, dude? Donald Trump Jr. would be crucified on national television. They would murder that man on national television.
They subpoenaed him at one point. I don't remember exactly. It was early on. I remember they subpoenaed Junior, and I was like, yeah, and
there's no videos of him smoking crack with a hooker or any of that.
That's why anyone that's coming out that's just not even remotely trying to be unbiased where it's just all Ukraine, fuck Russia. Like I don't respect your opinion.
Right.
I don't trust that you even know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And like the people involved, I mean, like Soros was heavily involved with the coup. And right now you have Soros, the Clintons, Biden.
When he tweeted about it, like Soros tweeted about it, and like about standing with Ukraine or whatever and stuff. And I commented on his tweet and I said, "What the fuck? I support Russia, or I'm cheering for Russia now." And that one I got hundreds of likes on that because everyone pretty much agreed. Like this crazy bag of shit, anything like whatever puts me on the opposite side.
I have conservative friends that are like, I don't even call them conservative, they're flat out Republicans, all Republican all day. And they adamantly would hate Soros, especially after the whole Trump thing. And
right.
And all of them know who he is at this point.
Yeah.
You bring up Soros, they just, but then you'll sit there and see stuff like go Ukraine. It's like,
I'm joining George Soros and standing with Ukraine.
Are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, And I'm not trying to vilify Ukraine by any means,
No,
because like I said,
there's good people there. They're victims
the
too.
people of Ukraine have nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're general, like,
You know who Gutfeld is? Greg Gutfeld. He's on the 5. Used to be on Red Eye. That's like that was one of my favorite shows ever. That's what got me into like Fox News early on. Was watching Red Eye.
I'm pretty sure I know who that is.
He's got a very kind of distinct kind of look about him. But his wife is Ukrainian, and his mother-in-law is in Ukraine, or was. I don't know if they've got her out yet, but he was talking about that, and like almost like in tears, really emotional, kind of talking about the whole deal, because it's like she has nothing to do with this. She's just a person there and caught up in the middle of this whole deal. And there are people like that on both sides of the equation. So that's why when I see people doing this whole pray for Ukraine thing, I'm like, well, if you were any sort of real, kind of Christian with any kind of empathy or whatever, you're also praying for the people of Russia, and the people of Libya, the people of Syria, the people of
when they were like, oh, and look at all these people in Russia protesting, like that was a sign that all of Russia was like against us. It's like, BLM, anybody,
right?
Just because there's protests does not show.
Or you can pick your one, Charlottesville, or whatever, where you had, like a
protest doesn't show the general representation of anybody. You know what I'm saying? And that could be anybody. Those groups could be anybody. They could be radicals. They could just be general. There's no context when you just show me one 20-second video of people in the streets.
Like, oh, wow, you found somebody against war. Congratulations. Yeah.
And it's funny how like, oh, Putin's this totalitarian night monster, but he's allowing that to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like it's this constant contradiction. Like you guys you talk out both sides of your butt constantly.
Well, Trump was going to start World War III, and surprisingly, that didn't happen under his watch.
Never mind all the peace treaties he signed.
Right.
Never mind any of that stuff. I actually saw the Babylon Bee thing today. This was great. It was they give Biden gets some award. Maybe it was
I'm gonna look it up right now. Babylon Bee.
He gets some award for ending the COVID pandemic. It was hilarious. I was like, it's funny because like if they weren't so good at writing satire that the left would actually push as actual truth.
Like early on, like they did kind of get a lot of that early on.
Everyone thought, dude, my dad, I would share stuff and he put like,
he's all angry about it.
Yeah. And I'm like, Dad,
they're joking, dude. Read it.
Babylon Bee,
Yeah. That's funny.
It's like click on the article and actually read it, dude. Like,
love it. Yeah, fantastic. It's crazy that who knew that all we needed to end, like the cure to COVID was war,
or just stop wearing, just stop with the mandates.
I like this headline is pretty great. Biden announces increased spending on Schmergerd Rusterfurgen blubber, like it's just like bumbled letters. Oh, they're good. Yep, love it. Oh, but yeah, so yep, the world's a mess. That hasn't changed. People do what people do, but there is hope at the end of it all. I think I'm still far more white pilled than anything else. And like the crazy thing about all that too is it's partly because I have a larger view than myself. It may not happen until after I'm gone when things get better. Things may just be a downward trend for the rest of my life. I don't know. Like that's absolutely a possibility that I'm ready and willing to live through. But I do think that it gets better and that it's not always going to be as messy or broken and stuff as it is now, but it always will be as long as it's life here on earth.
I hate to say things are relative all the time because that can be crap,
but it's not wrong.
At the same time, this is a good example of things are very relative to certain things. Like it's good and relative to, I think, as good as it may be, but it's also bad as is relative
as it'll ever be.
Could be, you know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
I think some people like, oh, it's only gotten worse in this world. That's not true. I mean, I'll make my argument. The worst that the world has ever been was 2,000 years ago on a hill in Calvary. That's the worst evil could ever do. It killed God.
Yeah.
we killed God. But there's
I agree.
nothing more evil.
That's
than
pretty much a low point in the
You know?
history of people. Yeah, I would agree.
So to say that it's been more evil than that is absolutely absurd. It's just
Right. Or just
we have
even
more
like
access to it. And here's the thing: like when ultimate good matches up with ultimate evil looks its worse. That's probably, I think,
True.
what the problem is. So
I think you're right. That's good. That's a good.
I think you're seeing a lot of people in America wake up out of this haze that we've been in, and
it's
people
shining a light
are
on
going to one side or the other. They're
Yeah.
going, hey, I may not fully buy in. Like Dave Rubin's a good example. He's buying into the good, and he's starting to represent the good. And when now he's facing off with the monster, because that's all they see, that light shines on the darkness, and that's all it is ultimate dark. So like when this is a good example. I use this example a lot. If you go into a dark room and you turn the light on, the lights, there's still shadows,
right?
But they're ultimately exaggerated because the light is consuming the room at this point. So you can find every shadow ultimately exaggerated,
and the shadows are usually bigger than the thing. I mean, there are times when it's smaller, but like in a lot of ways, it's bigger than the actual thing that's casting the shadow. I think you're right. That's a great point.
All it takes is light to end it. There is no true darkness. It's an absence of light. Now I know that gets a little more complicated in a physical sense. Like I can't just go push a bad person out of the room and be like, problem solved. You know what I'm saying? But ideologically speaking, like when we prevail with good ideas and ultimately good, it is ultimate. It is the absolute. It's the light that would make said darkness absent. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
I agree. I think that's a great point to wrap it up on too.
Amen,
like the power of light, dude. Yeah. Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Praise God.
Awesome.
There is light. There is still light. So cool. Well, that's another episode of Common Sense.